everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Bouncesor.
And welcome to, it's not a weekly recap at this point because last week was the anniversary spectacular, the 3 episodes. So if you want to go back and listen to those are probably some of our favorite episodes that we've done. But in the meantime, there's been quite a lot of recruiting news going on, and this is sort of the recruiting season for it. So we'll cover recruiting for both football and men's basketball and talk a little bit about baseball towards the end. But let's just go ahead and dive straight into the football recruiting. All of these guys are 2026 high school commits, and the first of the batch is running back / true athlete from Katy, Texas, Tanner West. And Tanner West is a 3-star, mid 3-star on 3. His most notable offers were SMU and KU. And the reason why I say that he's a true athlete is because he does have film from his junior season of him playing both running back and even out wide, like true wide receiver, slot receiver. He's basically just their gadget guy where they say, go make a play. And well, but before I get into my spiel, Connor, what were your initial thoughts about Tanner West? Because in some ways, my feelings about him as a player are mixed, but in other ways, I really like it.
My very first reaction to seeing that he was who had committed was, who's Tanner West? Because generally when players commit, like there's a little bit of buildup to it, or like we kind of like know that they're visiting, like they're posting about it. But like Tanner West is not somebody that we really had on our radar as even being recruited by K-State. But he's got interesting film. He reaches his top speed pretty quickly, and he's remarkably comfortable as a receiver, despite lining up as a running back quite a bit as well. But he is somebody that I think probably won't be a receiver at this level, but he's someone that I could see flipping sides of the ball as well. Like Callum Barta, he just did that. He came to K-State as a safety, and he's listed as a receiver now on the most recently updated depth chart. So Tanner West, definitely a solid athlete. I mean, he's listed as an athlete for a reason, but he kind of has a knack for finding himself some open space to work with. And I imagine that one way or another, we're going to find a spot for him.
Yeah, to me, my biggest concern with him is long speed, because he just doesn't have that extra gear to really break the top off of a defense or really threaten safeties. But with that said, I'm operating under the assumption that he will end up being a running back at K-State. I think that would probably be the favorite for where he ends up, unless he gets Strubotted and sent to the safety dimension, which I sincerely doubt. I mean, it could happen, but I just don't. That skill set doesn't really match his. He's a really good one-cut runner who's a really, really reliable receiver out of the backfield who knows what to do with the ball in space, but just doesn't have the long speed that you're looking for in a true gadget guy. So to me, and I don't want to pigeonhole him, because I do think that he has a good enough frame to where he could grow into a more powerful runner, and that would really complement his one-cut style. But right now, his role as it stands right now would be just sort of that receiving scat back that you bring in on those passing downs, because he's actually a pretty decent blocker as well. The last thing that I have to note from watching his film, and for pretty much all of these commits, there's like one small thing that I just thought was weird but wanted to point out. I don't know if this is on Tanner West's quarterback, or I don't know if this is on him, but he takes handoffs like he's catching the football. And that bothers me so much, because normally you're supposed to chomp down with your arms. Like the way that I heard it described was just gatoring it, basically. Just chomp down with your arms, move it to the outside arm from the line of scrimmage. He's having, and I think it might be on the quarterback, just putting it too high, because he's just having to go, like, he's clapping to take the football. And that's just kind of weird. It's not a good thing, but it's one of those, it's one of those where it can probably pretty easily be trained out of. I don't know. I just thought it was strange and interesting.
Yeah, no, that wasn't something that I noticed, but you are right. That if he's going to be a running back, he'll have to figure that out. But I do also agree with you that his long speed isn't necessarily the best, but he has a quick accelerator, if nothing else. So he has some good burst. He hits the hole well, which is kind of becoming a more popular trait with running backs, particularly the collegiate level, is guys that are able to hit the hole and get to their top speed fast, not necessarily have elite breakaway stuff, but just guys that are going to get to where they need to get quickly, kind of going for more of an efficiency approach in the running game. But yeah, a bit of a surprise ad, but not a bad ad.
No, I don't think it's a bad ad. It will probably, unfortunately, end up whenever we do the recruiting ranking special this time next year, he'll probably, unfortunately, be at the bottom, but it won't be one of those times where it's like, oh, I just didn't see it with this player, because I see it with Tanner West. I do see a power 4 player. It's just one that needs a little bit more time to develop and a more defined role at the college level, as opposed to, for want of a better term, being the high school star player.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you on that.
And so that's Tanner West, but the other commit that committed pretty soon after him is Keegan Collins, who is also a 3-star, though a highly rated 3-star via On3, and that's Keegan Collins from Amarillo, Texas. Now, this offer sheet was a lot more filled than Tanner West's. K-State ends up getting the commitment over schools like Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, Boise State. And the first thing that I noticed about Keegan Collins, there is no way to put this diplomatically. In his film, he is a dick. Like, he is one of the most diabolical and mean people in his film. And I kind of love it, because normally you hear, oh, he's a bully. Oh, he's a road grader. That just means they're good at run blocking. No, this guy legitimately bullies kids. This man bullies children. Do not take that out of context. But he's really, really good as an offensive lineman, because he sort of has that nasty streak that you look for in a run blocker. And the weird thing I noticed about him was that his technique in his lower half is pretty good, but his hand technique is what needs work, which normally it's kind of reversed with a lot of offensive line prospects. But other than me perhaps getting clipped out of context about Keegan Collins, what were your thoughts when he committed?
Super athletic, and already well on his way to filling out his frame. He's listed on On3, 6'5.5", 280 pounds, which that's a really good spot to be in as a rising senior in high school. So I'm pretty happy about that, if nothing else. But this was like I said, a pretty solid recruiting win. There was some big regional powers kind of sniffing around here, like Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, and Arkansas had all offered. So there were some guys that were kind of used to locking horns with that were present in this battle. But I mean, for as big as he is, he also he's got videos of him like moving pretty well on a basketball court as well and dunking. Which anytime you can get an offensive lineman that's able to move the way that Keegan Collins moves, you take that, particularly when they're as big already. I mean, a guy that's 280 already can move that way, and already shows a lot of promise on the field. That's pretty exciting, I think. But yeah, I kind of also was thinking the same thing. His hands and his arms need a lot of work on that, particularly because I'm seeing a tackle in his future. And so he'll be out on the edge, and he's going to need to keep those edge rushers at arm's length. Like leg wise, he's moving pretty well, and he also moves in space really well too, and really is good at burying people. But if there's one thing that we're seeing a lot of consistency with, is a lot of these guys that we're getting right now, they're already really good run blockers. But good spot to be in. But yeah, I like Keegan Collins quite a bit. I was very excited when we saw that we'd landed him.
Yeah. I also want to point out that he pancaked someone on a pass blocking rep, which is so difficult to do, especially like a true pancake where he didn't trip. No, he was just Keegan Collins was getting into his pass set, and he just hit the guy so hard in his chest that he just goes backwards and falls. That takes a lot of strength. And that is sort of the moment where, well, no, that wasn't the moment where I decided that he just has insane strength. That was when he Michael Orred someone and blocked them like 2.5 yards out of bounds. He's mean, man. He's just mean.
Yeah, there's not a better way to put it than that. But I mean, you kind of always need an offensive lineman that can be your enforcer. So Keaton's going to be that guy.
You're mean. Anyway, I'd say that Keegan Collins is probably he's probably my third favorite commit of this group, and one of them is getting into hot take territory. But before we get into that, is the other offensive line commit, or one of three, the second of three, and that's Justin Morales out of Franklin High School in Texas. Another mid-range 3-star with offers from Oregon State, Michigan State, Arizona State, and Texas Tech. And this one he's similar to Keegan Collins in that he sort of has that road grading mentality. This is what I mean when he plays bully ball. Because Keegan Collins, there's a difference between bullying someone and playing bully ball, and that's the difference between Keegan Collins and Justin Morales. Justin Morales does pick someone up in a pass blocking rep and does spine buster them, however, which was very funny to watch. But where Keegan Collins uses a lot of his hands in the running game, Justin Morales is more willing to use his frame and his speed to be that way in the running game. It's also kind of weird because he switches stances a lot in his film, and I think that's just coaching, because he'll switch between normal 2-point stance to a 3-point stance to a frog stance, which, God help me if I ever see a Division I player in a frog stance ever again. For those who are uninitiated, it is literally basically a catcher's stance with 2 arms in front of you. It works in triple option offenses. That's about it. But yeah, I like the Justin Morales pickup, and I don't mean to compare him to Keegan Collins because they're always going to be compared to one another. But I think that Keegan Collins is a tackle. Justin Morales could be a swing man, I think, is probably my assessment of him.
Yeah, I like Morales a lot too. He's got a pretty extensive offer list, even longer than Collins. Like, I know he had Nebraska and Wisconsin offer as well, and several others too. But yeah, he's very, very strong. I think is a good way to put it. But I think that while he does have a good understanding of leverage, I do think sometimes he relies a little bit too much on just having more upper body strength than a guy, which isn't always the worst thing. But he does need to get more consistent with staying within his frame when he's working on those pass block reps, because eventually, like, a defensive end is just going to use that against him at some point or another. But right now it does make for some awesome highlights because like he literally is just throwing people like most of the time. But what it does show, if nothing else, is he's got an edge to him, very tenacious, and still very, very strong. And kind of has a weird mix of being built like a bowling ball while also still being lean. And I'm not really sure how to explain it because like he like does look like a tank when he's moving, but he's also like 6'4", 250, which isn't huge, even for a high school offensive lineman. But he's just so muscular that and strong that he is able to really carry that weight pretty well. And I think he's got a great frame to work with too. I think he's somebody that has a future as an interior guy. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do with him in the weight room, because I think that he may end up being someone that may fall into kind of the sleeper of the class sort of range, because I really like his film.
It wouldn't surprise me if he ends up as a sleeper in the class just because of how early he committed. Because I remember some of the it's JoJo Scott. Some of the early commits from this last year sort of fell through the cracks too. But here's probably our collective hot take commitment. It also just struck me that all of these commits except for one were from the state of Texas. But K-State has their quarterback in this class, and it's Miles Tedecki, or it could be Tiadeki. I'm going to say Tedecki just because it feels the most natural to me. Out of Vandergrift High School in Austin, Texas. He's a state champion in Texas, so that should count for something. But he is we'll get to the most notable part about him after we get through the rankings here, but he's mid-level 3-star on 3, offers from K-State, Texas State, UTSA, Cincy, and then a bunch of Ivy Leagues. The last K-State quarterback that had Ivy League offers was Will Howard. Yes, I had to bring that up just because I think it's an interesting fun fact. But the most notable thing about Miles Tedecki, he's left-handed. And people will obsess over the fact that he is left-handed for the entire duration that he is on campus. And Connor, I see you frowning right now. How does it feel to finally have one of your brethren get the opportunity in the quarterback room at K-State?
Yeah. Part of a quietly oppressed class in America, left-handers, we're everywhere. We're shopping in your grocery stores. We're in your movie theaters. And we may even be your coworkers and friends. But us left-handers, we're not invisible anymore because Miles Tedecki is now a quarterback at K-State. But he honestly, I really like him. Like I know there's been like some mixed discourse on him in various circles, but so I was kind of expecting like really like horrible stuff when we got to his film, but his film's actually really good. I was pretty impressed. He's got a really great release, left-handed, so that's bonus points obviously, but then a 6A D2 state champion, like that's super impressive. He completed 70% of his passes this year, 48 passing touchdowns as well this past season. Wildly successful, but what really impresses me is he's pretty advanced when it comes to vertical passing. The vertical passing game, whether that be deep or up the seam or just kind of more over the middle, he has a pretty solid understanding of what he needs to do as a quarterback in those situations. And I really like what I'm seeing from him early in that. And I guess another noteworthy thing, his huddle tape, at the beginning, he has his stats, and he breaks it down between regular season and playoffs. And his stats actually shot up like significantly from regular season to playoffs. Like his completion percentage in the regular season was 64%, went up to 77% in the playoffs. And he had a 19-2 touchdown to interception ratio in the playoffs, and his QB rating went up 17 points in playoffs. So That's what you like to see from a quarterback, is a guy that can rise to the occasion when you're in those more high stakes scenarios. So I'm very happy with this pickup, honestly. Like I think it's jarring to watch because he's throwing the ball left-handed. I mean, sure, baseball, a lot of lefties, but you don't see a lot of lefty QBs. It's pretty unusual. I mean, we have Tua Tagovailoa, we had Pat White in the past, Michael Penix, of course, but it's still pretty unusual. Like, I mean, K-State, we had the great Alan Everidge, of course, back in, I think, 05, for how great a season that was. But no, it was, I really like Tadeki. He's got a really quick release, and he's successful. Like, he's a winner, and that's the type of guy you want in a quarterback.
Whenever I was looking at his film, I really was not expecting to like it as much as I did. There were two things that I sort of had as iffy traits and then one bad trait, but both of those were substantially outweighed by the good in his film. I think his arm strength is just average, and his processing, he's a high school quarterback, so he's not really working through full field reads. That's just not something high school quarterbacks are asked to do unless you're a literal 5-star. And the only negative trait in his game was, I think he's a bit skittish for when to leave the pocket, but his release is the fastest I've seen of a K-State quarterback recruit. The only one in the same stratosphere is Adrian Lara, which is a name you probably haven't heard quite some time. But he has plus accuracy, like legitimately plus accuracy at all three layers of the field. And the most impressive thing to me is he is one of the first high school quarterback commits that K-State has had that understands how to layer his passes, which means that he actually is able to get touch on his passes. And again, that is an exceedingly rare trait for college quarterbacks, and he has an understanding of how to do it at the high school level. There are multiple times where if he throws a bullet pass, it's going to hit a linebacker in the face, or he's going to put his receiver in harm's way. But he's able to sort of leverage his arm, and I'm not saying he uses any wacky arm angles, but he has the ability to just layer the throw and touch over the linebackers to where it's a completion that doesn't get his receiver killed. And this is where the hot take territory comes in, because I think that we've been known as just thinking Dylan Duff was okay. A lot of people were really high on Dylan Duff, and that one I can understand why, at least. I think the discourse on Miles Tedecki is ridiculous. I like Miles Tedecki more than just about any high school quarterback commit that K-State has gotten in these last few years that isn't named Avery Johnson. Blake Barnett and Miles Tedecki are fighting for that number 2 spot right now. And I feel like we've just decided that we're like, this is our hill that we're dying on. Miles Tedecki is a legitimately good quarterback prospect, and I like him more than I liked Dylan Duff.
I totally agree with you, man. Like, I think what's making me want to, really plant our flag on this even more is that, like, there have been like sections of K-State fans that really do not like Tedecki at all, and I don't think that there's really a good basis for it in his highlights. Like, maybe there's something about him that, like, we're just not privy to, but if that's the case, I don't know why we would have taken him. I think we would have rather kind of waited around for a late bloomer quarterback at that point, or God forbid, take a JUCO guy. Matt Wells is pretty well regarded as an evaluator of quarterback talent, and Avery Johnson, I think people forget how good of a year he had last year. And he really I think took some steps as a passer, and I think we're probably going to see that again this year. But Matt Wells, across all of his stops, he's done great with quarterbacks, evaluating quarterbacks and developing quarterbacks. And I'm pretty inclined to think that if he sees something to Decky, that's probably valid. And I feel like his highlight tape kind of speaks for itself as well. I really like what we saw. He's an accurate passer, won a state championship, did not throw many interceptions, threw a ton of touchdowns. Isn't the most mobile guy in the world, but that's not really the type of QB that Matt Wells is typically going for anyways. So I really like Tedecki. I know the buzz on Dylan Duff is pretty positive as well, even though I am with you, Ace. Out of high school, I was kind of so-so on him. But, we'll see, I suppose, is where we'll stand on that. But Mouse Tedecki, I like the kid. I think he's got talent. I think he deserves a fair shake.
I also want to point out that I really like his pocket feel when he does stick around in the pocket and doesn't look to break contain. I think he has a really, really underrated sense of how to move himself to where he can still get the throw. And tell you what I'm going to do after this episode. I'm going to download his huddle highlights, flip them, and then watch people say, wait a minute, why is he a good quarterback? Because I swear to God, that happens with every left-handed quarterback.
Yeah, I remember not this past year, but the year before for the draft and Michael Penix, somebody went and uploaded some of his highlights on the Twitter, but just flipped them. And his mechanics were just perfect. But it's just because it looks so awkward seeing a left-handed quarterback, which is so funny that kind of a side tangent, but it's funny that it does look so unnatural to see a lefty quarterback compared to a righty, but we don't have that same feeling really when it comes to pitchers. Mm-hmm. Even though in theory, that should be the same, I'm not sure why that is. But maybe it's just because we see so many lefty pitchers, and
it's more common in baseball.
Yeah. And I guess if you wanted, on the point of him being left-handed, the one thing that you could say could make things a little difficult for Tedecki is when you do have a lefty QB, you do have to flip your offense, because playbooks are made for right-handed quarterbacks. But I like to think that there are enough adults in the room at K-State that we can figure that out.
Yeah, that might be the hottest take of us being high on someone. Because we've had hot takes where we've been low on people, and granted, those have turned out very well, horribly, by the way. But this might be the time that because even JoJo Scott, we were like, okay, wait a minute, JoJo Scott might be one of the top players in this class. Other people sort of, he wasn't starting from negative. Tedecki was starting from negative in the fan base's eyes, and I just don't get it. I don't understand.
It's I know that I was a big Garrett Oakley believer, but people didn't really ever dislike him. They just kind of didn't know about him. So that doesn't really count the same way because everybody that follows recruiting is going to kind of gravitate towards the QB of the class. That's just kind of natural. And also QB highlights are generally the easiest to watch. And despite being the most difficult position to evaluate, everybody feels like they can evaluate it the best because that's who you're watching play after play when you're actually watching football.
Anyway, we should probably get off that soapbox there because it's going to be one we're going to be on for a while.
Yeah.
But the last football commit of this last week is from Kirksville, Missouri, and that is Bennett Frazier, who's listed as a tackle, 6'5", 265. I think he's a guard, and the main reason for that is because, first off, his offer sheet, Mizzou, UCF, Northwestern, Ball State. So I'm sure he had other offers as well. But the thing with Bennett Frazier is he is freakishly laterally quick, even though he takes a second to sort of swing himself that way. And the weird trait with him is his it's sort of inverse Keegan Collins. Upper body is pretty much exactly where it needs to be. Like he's in that perfect position, but he's not. The term for offensive line coach is sitting in the chair, where you're sort of that wide base and sort of leaning back a little bit with your bottom half. Weirdly enough, he's sort of reversed in that. Top half is good, bottom half needs a little work, but let me tell you, that's guard. That's guard film. That's what happens when you play guard. They do that all the time, and that's because they can get away with it. So, of the 3 offensive line commits, I'd say he's my second favorite. Keegan Collins' film it's as joyous as offensive line film gets, but Bennett Frazier has a lot of things that you sort of pick out as traits. So, Connor, are you picking up on the same sort of traits that I'm picking up on?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it totally sticks out, like, that it seems like, I mean, he pulls so much in his highlights that it really does feel like where it's a trait that he's just, like, already so high level at it that his school, his team is running more plays designed to that strength. Like, that's just kind of how it feels when you watch his highlights, because he's very good at pulling. He gets down the line absurdly fast for a guy his size. And I think that if he can bulk, like, I think that he can be a guard, like, because like his skill set is guard. When I look at him and just take all the context out, my mind is saying tackle, but like I don't think he's going to be a tackle. I think he'll be a guard. I'm with you, Ace. So he is really good in run blocking. Again, this is yet another Connor Wright or Brian LePack offensive line commitment that you look at him and he's already a really good run blocker. This was also a good recruiting win head-to-head against Mizzou for an in-state guy from Mizzou nonetheless. But, man, I was really pleased with his film. He moves laterally and then gets upfield really quickly. Like the way he moves as an offensive lineman and just how quick, sudden, athletic he is, like, kind of feels sort of like Carver Willis in that one highlight of him keeping speed with DJ Giddens down the sideline.
It's one of the most insane, like, strange things I've ever seen happen on a football field.
Because like verifiably DJ is a fast person, and Carver, like, fast for a lineman, I'm sure he doesn't run a 4.43, but Bennett Frazier, I really like him, and man, LePack has just put together a fantastic offensive line class here. I see it with all of these guys, which feels good to say, because even with some really great, like, think of a couple of years ago, like there were guys where it's like you look at them and you're like, they're incredible, but then there's like kind of the one guy where you're like, maybe not. It's like I see it with all of these players. Like I think we have 5 now. I think all 5 of them I'm looking at and saying, yeah, like I could see this guy starting games for K-State. Like I'm there with it. So LePack, like, this job's done. He can like go golf the rest of the summer, I guess, like, because his recruiting is over. So
yeah, I don't think they'll pick up another offensive line commit unless like a 4-star kicks down the door and says, "Hey, I would like to commit here."
yeah,
I think the response would be confusion.
Yeah, I guess like if Noah Best wants to decommit from OU or something, like, which fair to say didn't make the best decision for himself with in terms of long-term coaching staff presence. I have a feeling things are going south there. But
yeah, I think that's an interesting discussion for maybe like a Knights in the Ville episode of how much do you think brands play into recruiting. But that's all the high school football commits. We get to talk about men's basketball, and oops, we forgot to cover probably the most important commit of the last few years. Oops.
yeah.
That's on us.
Yeah, I very specifically remember a couple weeks ago now where we were like going to record and we both were kind of like, well, nothing really happened this week. So we can probably just like skip the episode this week, and then like the next day or 2 days later, I think it was Saturday by the time we
On a
really put it
Saturday.
together, or like, didn't PJ Haggerty commit like this week? The answer was yes. He committed on that past Monday, and we had spent so much time talking about it, reading about it, DMing about it, group chatting about it, that I guess we just kind of it just felt like it had happened a long time ago, which was not the case. That was a bold-faced lie on our part, but we're here now. It's late, but Mr. Haggerty, we are here to talk about you, give you your deserved moment in the spotlight.
I mean, I don't think there's much hyperbole to say that this is the most, or at least the most prolific commit that K-State has gotten out of the transfer portal, because he was like the number 3 rated player on 3 on 3. That's always so weird to say.
Yeah,
and he was originally going to go to the NBA draft, decided to withdraw, put his name into the transfer portal, comes in from Memphis. Doug McDaniel goes to Memphis. We end up the trade ends up being Naquan Tomlin and Doug McDaniel for Tyreek Smith if he gets his waiver, and PJ Haggerty. I will take I would take it without Tyreek Smith, honestly.
Yeah, and that's not Tyreek Smith erasure. That's just PJ Haggerty is a second-team All-American, and he's now a K-State Wildcat. Like, I think you're right, Ace, and in terms of him being like probably the best transfer or he is, and I'm not going to say probably, like no qualifiers here. I love to qualify things, but no qualifiers here. He's the best, most decorated transfer that K-State has brought in, not just in men's basketball. I think regardless of sport, I think he's the best transfer that K-State's gotten. Like, when I heard that question posed on Bosco's Boys, I think it's been a couple of weeks now. My mind first went to football with like Arthur Brown and Chris Harper. I was kind of like, maybe Arthur Brown, but I kind of forgot that he didn't really actually do anything at Miami. He was like the number 1 recruit in the country out of high school, but like he didn't really produce a ton at Miami. So like it's not quite the same, because Haggerty like started at TCU. Fun fact, did not know that. But went to Tulsa, averaged over 20 a game, then went to Memphis and also averaged like 22, 23 a game, increased his 3-point percentage by like 7%, and was the second team All-American on a NCAA tournament team. Like, this is exactly what K-State needed. Like, we're obviously late to the party here, but like, it's been long enough that I think maybe we can restart the conversation and act like these points haven't already been made by other people. I'm just going to steal everything that KSU fan has said because he's a lot smarter about this stuff than I am. But biggest thing I think to write home about with PJ Haggerty is that he shoots a lot of free throws. He is really good at getting to the line because he is really good at getting to the rim. Last year, K-State didn't really shoot a lot of free throws, like, which is something that you kind of notice and kind of pick up on, but like it really hits. Like when you look at box scores, like K-State didn't get to the line much. Doug McDaniel in particular really didn't get to the line much. That's one thing that you really kind of need. But PJ Haggerty has shot like 500 or 600 free throws in like the last like couple years, which is just absolutely absurd. But that's going to be massive for K-State. And another thing that I've heard mentioned by a KSU fan that I'll reiterate here is maybe the biggest thing that PJ Haggerty brings to K-State is, I mean, beyond, of course, his obvious talent and prowess as a scorer, what he does is he pushes everybody in the backcourt down a spot. Nate Johnson doesn't have to be the lead guard anymore. Andre Kostic doesn't have to immediately be an all-conference player, although he may be capable of it. But Abdi Bashir may be able to get away with bringing him off the bench comfortably now, instead of like kind of having to like cross your fingers like on his defense as a starter every night. So Haggerty, like this ad is pretty phenomenal for K-State. And I think it vaults us into comfortably on the bubble, I think preseason. And we should be better than that. I think we did just get the schedule matrix today, and honestly, it's pretty favorable. It's a favorable schedule. So if you ever wanted to pick a year to have absolutely zero excuses, even more so than last year, because we kind of got blinded by the allure of Hawkins and Gasson, like not because Hawkins is a bad player, he's a great basketball player, but because we just didn't have the guards. We didn't have the horses, and I think we really kind of put the blinders on for Doug McDaniel, like who still had his moments, but just was not what we needed. Haggerty, by all accounts, is an incredible leader. Has been very successful at 2 previous stops. Now he has not shown it at the Power 4 level, which that's going to be the big question: is can he translate his scoring prowess and ability to be a lead guard to this level against the competition that we're going to be facing? You know, that's the big question. But man, this has made this class of ads for K-State really interesting, and it's gotten to the point where I'm bought back in pretty fully, despite knowing what's good for me. What that does also mean is that if we miss the postseason again or have a lackluster year, I will take out a payday loan to help fund the buyout.
I think that there's nothing that I can say about PJ Haggerty that you didn't just say. So I'll just move on to the other commit, and that's Elias Rapique. And he's a small forward, played a lot of European ball in Alba Berlin. And that's another good pickup. You get someone who's played professional ball in Eastern Europe. Or no, that is Germany Eastern Europe? I think it's just Europe. Central Europe.
I'd say it's Western, probably.
But you get more pro experience and a solid player. The only other thing that I really have to say is if you squint, it's mostly in the hair. He kind of looks like Amani Lester. But it's
cursed, man.
It's cursed. But
you're not wrong, though. Just saying.
Yeah, sadly, I am also interested in. I'm not optimistic. I would say I expect this team to do moderately well and probably make the tournament. However, it's the fact that I'm even making that a question that scares me. Because unless, I don't know, maybe my feelings will clarify more as we get closer to the season. But this absolutely should be a tournament team. And honestly, I don't even think that should be in the realm of questioning, because if you take the talent on this roster and just pure talent, you can compete. I'm not saying you're beating everyone, but you can compete with anyone in the country. I truly believe that. In a vacuum, just talent on the court.
Yeah, I think I'm in kind of agreeing with you here. I mean, obviously the weak spot right now is we don't have a lot of big guys. Kamari McGriff is like the only like tall player that, or like the only player like taller than like 6'6". I think that's confirmed to actually like be able to play, because Tyreek Smith still haven't heard on his waiver. With every day that passes, I get like much more pessimistic that he's going to get it. I know we've been linked to a few other international big guys, which, to be fair, some of them, it's like I look at them and it's like, if we like got like one or two of those guys, like I would be over the moon and like fully bought in, like drinking the Tang Kool-Aid. Like I'd be all in once again to the detriment of my own mental health. So I'm a sweet treat for as a reward. That's I guess where I'll go with that, since I mean we really don't know a whole lot, because the past couple of years there's been a lot of stuff that's kind of leaked out during recruiting about who's being chased and stuff, but like this year it's been pretty on the down low, which I'm not upset about. I think that's like seemed to have worked pretty well. But man, this roster construction is pretty good, other than probably need one more big guy, because McGriff and Rapique probably not enough. But Andre Kostic, he recently got graded, and he's graded as a 94 4-star by On3. Like he was at a international NBA combine deal, and like he played super well in that, and was someone that was kind of getting mentioned as like a late round riser for the NBA potentially. So, man, we've put together a lot of talent, and we've measured and met a lot of needs. So we just got to go do it now, and it really is now or never. Like the talent's there, the money's there. We got the dudes are here. Like Dang's always like we got dudes, like we need, like they're here, and like the team that we need is here. Like it's not realistically going to get better in this without showing something.
God, dude, this is really setting up to be just kind of one of those years for the two revenue sports where you kind of have to do something with it, which is weird because it's kind of it's the inverse of this year, where this year was supposed to be big years for the non-rev sports, which granted, say what you will about the rev sports, but I kind of expected them to be good at least. But this next year, I think the non-revs are going to be going through, I don't like the term rebuilding when it comes to college sports, because I know, but I think it'll be a growth year for a lot of the non-revs, but the revenue sports should be competing for things at the national scale.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't really like kind of on our outline. I mean, we don't have an outline, but it wasn't on our list of topics to discuss, but I think it's worth discussing. I mean, it's June 12th. Like there's not a lot to talk about right now other than football recruiting. But I mean, football right now, like there is very little reason on paper that this team should not win 10 games, because I think K-State is going to be favored in about every game this year. Like maybe Utah like is going to be like a coin flip depending on how good of a season they have. Of course, Iowa State and Dublin, that'll be tough as well. But I mean, like we need to have a very good year, because like we're not guaranteed another year of Avery Johnson if he performs really well. And allegedly, we seem to have good receivers other than Jace Brown. We know we have good tight ends. We've reloaded at the offensive line for the most part. George Fitzpatrick's only a junior, which I just learned. I thought that he was a one-year guy.
Nope. Well, he could be a one-year guy, but,
I mean, but he has multiple years of eligibility, which that was like a nice little surprise for me. Also, unrelated to K-State's team success, well, maybe it's related. Lincoln Kier is wearing number 0, and I think that's really cool. And that there's zero cure for your secondary after Lincoln Kier has gone through it.
You've been saving that one, huh?
Yes.
We have to talk about baseball. Baseball season ended. Keegan O'Connor got the home run record for K-State. Seth Dardar got poached by LSU. We made a regional, won a single game, got eliminated. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, we beat Houston Christian, which is exactly what we should have done. We lost UTSA, which hurt, but then they went to the Supers, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's probably fair. And we were down to very few pitchers with Texas, and our pitching staff is not very deep to begin with. It's about as deep as a kiddie pool, and we were already down pretty low at that point. So we did get some style points late, though. AJ Vasco had a 2-home run game against Texas. He was a freshman All-American as well, which I think is notable. And he set the freshman home run record, did AJ Vasco. So still notable performances, like, and like for it being a year where I think back to when we had Brian Smoller on to preview, he was kind of pumping the brakes and saying, maybe don't expect a regional this year. Like let's wait and see with this team. But they had such a great start, and they actually won a regional game this year. Like, I think this team, despite the frustrations, overachieved and should bring back a really interesting young core. We're going to bring back, I think, most of the guys that we were able to, with the exception of Seth Dardar, which, like, I didn't even know he had another year eligibility. I thought he was done. So when I saw he transferred and committed to LSU, I didn't even know he could do that. So I was a little sad. But I guess I can't blame him because he is from Louisiana. So
they threw a lot of money at him.
I would imagine that LSU probably has some more baseball NIL floating around.
Yes. Yes. I'm not gonna leak the figures, but it's not like generational wealth, but it's not a scholarship either. It's a bit more.
Well, you'd think a guy like Seth Dardar, having been to Columbia, would just be grateful for the opportunity to continue his graduate studies, but I guess not all of us can
be academically minded.
Yeah. Some of us have Dardar brains, so.
You have any final notes before we sign off?
It's going to be a very, very long summer, unfortunately. But right now, K-State track their nationals right now. It's like going on as we speak. So we're not going to report on it because it's not done. But I don't think we're going to win nationals, but we're going to have some people place. So we can get some All-American honors. That'll be cool.
Yeah. Always good to have All-American honors. But that's the case. Thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If you want to follow or contact the show, you can follow us just about anywhere at Aggieville Alleycats. And if you want to email us, we're AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at ACEdwards00.
I am at Connor Balsor, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store. Link found in our podcast and Twitter bio. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. We're come rain, shine, or anything between. We're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.